Can Diego Pavia make a run at the quarterback one job? Well, we break it down right here. Let's go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKED ON for $20 off your first purchase. Well, Diego Pavia, we mentioned yesterday. I keep saying we like I got this entire team around me, but I mentioned yesterday he commits, right? And how good that is for the quarterback room, and what that brings as far as like attitude wise, moxie wise, whatever that is. Yesterday we talked about kind of that dynamic. Well, tonight or today or whenever you're watching this, I'm going to tell you why I think he has a legitimate shot at making a run at the quarterback one job. Now, and I think that he could very well be quarterback one, and this will be determined through fall camp. I imagine this battle will go well into fall camp, maybe even into the Virginia Tech game. So, hold on to your hats on this one. I'll say that, but I think Diego Pavia does bring a lot to the table, and he is a legit contender for the quarterback one job. And here's why. Okay. Watching his tape, right? Watching what he does and watching kind of how he commands this offense. Like I said yesterday, his moxie, just his it factor just jumps right off the page. I mean, he's a tough kid, lots of enthusiasm, lots of pizzazz, very fiery. After making an interception, he tackles the ball carrier and slams him, and gets up and stands over him and like causes kind of a little scuffle. Like those are the kind of intangible it factors that Diego Pavia brings to the table. But I will break him down today as an actual quarterback. What skills does he have? How does he stack up with Nate Johnson? We've broken down Nate Johnson a little bit, right? We've kind of seen on video. Now, I wish I could show you video to kind of equalize it, but we've seen on video what Nate Johnson brings to the table. And I think Diego Pavia brings a lot of those same things. Like when you look at Diego Pavia's stats, right? He was Conference USA player, offensive player of the year. He was voted team captain. So those are those it factor things. But he's a great runner, man. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that. He rushed for almost 1,000 yards. And with Tim Beck's offense, like he uses the quarterback very, very effectively in being a big part of that offense and kind of making that offense go. Like Diego Pavia is a great runner. He runs a lot of like zone reads. He ran a lot of quarterback power off the jet motion, which is a lot of stuff that he made. He made his yards on scrambles. He's a really good scrambler. He's very, very athletic, has a good sense of awareness of when the rush is coming and can kind of find openings and either buy himself some time to make a throw down field or just scurry ahead for a bunch of chunk yardage. And I thought he added a lot of firepower and a lot of he added a lot to that run game, and he was effective. And their run game and their offense was effective because teams couldn't account for him, even if they wanted to. So I thought he did a really, really good job there. He was disciplined in the RPO game, which option game too. And I think that's what makes him an effective runner, is because he is so disciplined in carrying out his fakes, carrying out his reads, and really kind of forcing defenders to make decisions. And that's what discipline looks like in the RPO game. From the coaching perspective, that's what you want. Like when you teach these fundamentals and how to read the mesh, right? The mesh is the exchange between the running back and the quarterback. When you can read the mesh and you can hold that mesh for as long as possible, that makes things a lot more effective in the RPO game or the dual read option game, because defenders have to make a decision, right? they can't sit back and slow play you because they know there's an impatient quarterback back there that he's making his read full. He's making his full read prior to the snap, right? Diego Pavia does a really, really good job of just kind of holding that read and forcing those linebackers or those edge players, depending on what the play is, to really kind of make a decision. And there's some schemes where I talked about like arrow schemes and how he's going to use the tight end. So imagine this with Tyler Fortenberry as you're listening to this, but he did this at New Mexico State and he did it really, really well. There's a play, I call it an arrow screen. A lot of people call it a bunch of different things, but I call it an arrow scheme, an arrow screen in kind of my terminology as an offensive coordinator. And when you pair that arrow screen, like it's a fast screen, which sometimes if it's called just as a fast screen, you're just catching and ripping out to the arrow route, and you're kind of running the space. But a lot of times teams will pair that as a first level RPO read. And what Tim Beck has done is he's turned that kind of into an iteration of the zone triple, which in the original triple option, you have a dive, a quarterback, and a pitch, right? Well, the arrow route is now the de facto pitch guy. And then your quarterback is the quarterback and your dive is the dive. So they would run, and then sometimes they would run it as a slip screen, which a slip screen and an arrow screen are the same route. Ultimately, they're going to the same landmark, but a slip screen is you're slipping behind the line of scrimmage and getting out the other side into what looks like your arrow screen. So and Pavia did this masterfully. Tim Beck did this masterfully. And what he would do is he would ride that fake in there. He would get that defensive end to squeeze down. And once that defensive end squeezes down and kind of gives him a glimmer of edge, you have the next defender that's responsible for the tight end. And sometimes it was that edge guy that you were also leaving unblocked in the run. So he was kind of conflicted to begin with, just on the dive and the quarterback. So what would happen now is he would ride that fake in there, not really a fake, but he would read it. He would ride his first read down in there and just pull it at the last possible second. And when he pulls it, he now then attacks. He doesn't go laterally and allowing that defensive end or allowing that edge guy to just kind of string along and just kind of shuffle along and make a play when he decides to go upfield. I mean, he's getting a little bit of depth, obviously, but he's getting himself a good launch angle to really kind of force that guy. Okay, I got this tight end that's coming out in the flat, that's threatening the flat right now, but I got a ball carrier coming right at me. Like, what do I do? And Pavia got really, really good at just being able to flip the ball out there, just kind of on the run. He'd be running towards the guy. If you could see me on YouTube, I got a little bit better visual, but for the audio side people, he runs kind of right at the outside leverage of that defender. So like between the defender and the sideline is what that outside leverage is. He runs right at him, forcing him to say, okay, I've either got to make this tackle or I've got to kind of react. And Pavia has a really good job of being able to fake it, like kind of running at him and just flipping it out there with his right arm. And sometimes faking like he's flipping it out there and pulling it and making that guy kind of turn his shoulders. And then once that guy turned his shoulders, he would dip underneath it and burst up field for like 10 or 12 yards, getting a really, really nice gain. And so like those type of things are what Pavia is really, really good at. And that's what I mean by discipline in the RPO game or the dual read option game is you're attacking your leverage. You're reading the appropriate keys effectively, how they're supposed to be read to create true conflict. And with Tim Beck's system, that's what you need. You need a guy that's going to be disciplined enough to do that. And I think Pavia adding to the mix is going to be disciplined enough to do that. Is Nate Johnson going to be disciplined enough to do that? I don't know. He wasn't quite asked to do a lot of those things at Utah. He was more so of a dual read quarterback guy and play action, quick game. I mean, I think Nate Johnson throws a better deep ball. I think he has a little bit stronger arm, but like just what they asked him to do at Utah versus what they asked Pavia to do at New Mexico State, I think is a little bit of a separator or a little bit of a difference in the two. And that's why I think Pavia has a little more discipline in the RPO game because he's just got experience. It comes with experience because you're not like that from the jump. You have to develop into that, and you have to develop the trust that, hey, I'm reading the right key here. Had a lot of poise, man. I've seen several throws where he's just, the defense is just looks chaotic around him. Guys falling at his feet, things like that. He looked very poised, delivering throws on time, being able to hit guys in stride down the field vertically. I think is good. Like, you have guys like Jeremiah Dillon, who's going to be, as Steve Willis from Locked On Ole Miss described him, as very, very smooth. So I think being able to hit those guys in stride and be able to get some of these big plays is going to be what is going to do wonders for this Vanderbilt offense. Being able to score in 6 or less plays is going to be a really, really good thing. It's going to help your defense. And being able to be multiple in what you do is also going to help an offensive line that probably isn't going to be very experienced or has a little bit of probably a strength gap between them and their opponents, especially conference opponents. So being able to be multiple, being disciplined in the RPO game / option game, I think whoever's sitting in the quarterback 1 spot, I think is going to have to be that, because that's what's going to make this offense go. That's what's going to open up the run game. That's what's going to allow you to sit back in the pocket. That's what's going to open up play action. That's what's going to open up things down the field, because these players are screaming downhill. And to be able to be multiple like that, and you have a kid that has some moxie in there, I think is really, really good. It's kind of a little bit of an elongated release, which that may have to change a little bit as far as being able to go against SEC defenses, because those guys close in a lot quicker than Mountain West defenders. No offense to the Mountain West, but it just is what it is. Those guys close in like that. So he's going to have to work on getting his release quicker. Maybe he has to get into his reads quicker on dropbacks, quick game and dropbacks, but he's got a little bit of a long release, and that concerns me a little bit. And because of that, he may lack some power driving the ball downfield. So if you're in some harsh conditions, he may not be as effective vertically as he needs to be. So, but Diego Pavia, I think, when you look at just the experience that he has in the offense and the experience that he brings just from playing in tough environments and going into Jordan-Hare Stadium and not only beating Auburn, but beating down Auburn. Like, it looked like they were the better team. Like, and he knew it too. Like, he played with a swag that I've never seen a road quarterback play with going into Auburn. Like, it's crazy. But he did, man. And it was something. And they got a little bit of that flavor there. So I know Nate Johnson probably doesn't want to hear any of that. But Nate Johnson's a competitor. Diego Pavia is a competitor. Those guys are going to battle it out, man. Probably be best of friends, because that's what competition does sometimes, or that's what it's hopefully going to do. But I'm excited about Diego Pavia. I think you're getting a really, really good quarterback. I think for what Vanderbilt wants to do, what Tim Beck wants to do, I think Pavia fits the bill. And especially the RPO game. It's the patience, man. It's the patience and the discipline to carry through on your reads. So very exciting times. Really good quarterback. Was glad to break him down a little bit. As soon as I can get my hands on some video, we'll do some video breakdowns. But until then, we won't do that. So, but Diego Pavia gonna legit compete for quarterback for QB1, and I think he has a lot to. I think that has a lot to be said. So breaking down that. Clark Lea is continuing to add to his staff, continuing to bolster his staff. I'll tell you what that looks like and why that's important and why that's it's obviously a positive thing. So I'm going to tell you kind of what that looks like next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, the NFL playoffs is into its divisional round. And there is still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and it's the best way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. You can stick with the boring spreads if you want to even. So there's over-unders that you can go. I mean, there's a lot of things. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, welcome back. It is segment number 2. Welcome into this Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen. Make sure you pop on over to Locked On SEC to make them your second listen. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job over there. Had me on early on. Would love to come back and talk about Diego Pavia. Not sure if Vandy's on the radar yet. Hopefully we become a radar team, but there's some things that are looking up, man. And this program is phenomenal. They're making some really good moves here. And I think when I had Kurt Page on actually a week ago from today, I think with what Kurt Page was able to, actually, I didn't have him a week ago today. I had him a few days ago because it feels like this week has felt like 3 weeks, just so you know, here in Nashville, because it's been snowing and all concept of time is completely lost on me right now. So bear with me on that. But when I had Kurt Page on, we talked obviously quarterback stuff, but we talked program building stuff. Like he's talked to people inside the program. He's pretty well connected, and the support is there for Clark Lea. And he, the first couple of seasons, the first 2 seasons were a learning experience. This third season was a kind of a setback, I think. It was a setback. Obviously, at 2-10, there's a lot of things going wrong. I think he kind of figured out that he needed to move off of his coordinators. He felt like, his experiment of being a CEO type head coach is probably not good. He was too far detached, I think, and he really didn't have his finger on the program like he needed to. Now he's getting more involved, taking over as defensive coordinator, taking over play calling duties. But he has an extra spot to fill on the coaching staff, and so he's going to bolster his defensive staff. He's going to hire Seth Payne from Elon he's going to assist with the defensive line. A little bit about Seth Payne. He was the defensive line coach and run game coordinator at Elon. He was also the recruiting coordinator as well there, and he's had some previous stops before them, but that's the most recent. And I think having a young guy that can recruit is going to be a huge piece to this. He's not taking over the entire defensive line, so I think Javon Hay is not leaving. Thankfully, Javon Hay is probably one of the better guys on the staff. But this guy, I think, adds an element to recruiting. And coming from the Carolinas, I think he's going to help Clark Lea have a presence in the Carolinas a little bit, and I think that's a huge part of why he's being hired. I think he's a good young mind that could kind of mold himself into a viable piece to this staff. And he's a young guy that, a lot of like veteran guys probably don't want to take a chance. There's a lot of risk involved coming to Vanderbilt right now because you're kind of getting into a program that is kind of struggling with the university to try to get connected. And you're coming into a situation where the guy just went 2-10, an abysmal 2-10 in the SEC, going 0-8 in conference games. And for all practical purposes is on the hot seat. Like that's a tough situation to walk into. And, so you're not like the list of guys that are willing to jump on that is probably pretty short. But you could dip into the FCS levels. Those guys want to break into FBS level coaching. And if you're in an FCS program like Elon playing in the Southern Conference and you get a chance to jump into the SEC, you're going to do it, right? And it's, no matter what it looks like, you're going to do it. And so Seth Payne is going to do that. And I guarantee you, he's there to recruit and just to kind of be an extra hand down with the defensive line. And he's there to recruit. That's number one for him. Like if he doesn't recruit, he probably doesn't belong on the staff. That's why he went after a young guy, a hungry guy from the FCS level, and he can take a shot on this because he's got that extra spot to fill because now he is the defensive coordinator. He can kind of, he's got his special teams guy, Jeff LePack. I think that was made official. He's going to coach tight ends and be the special teams coordinator. Now you've got a recruiting coordinator on a road recruiting coordinator. So you got somebody that's going to help your recruiting staff as well as assist with the defensive line. You've got some advisors and you've got some really, really good things in place on both sides of the ball and in all three phases. And so I really kind of like the way the staff is made up, and this can only be, good. And with the way I think they're going to construct their defensive line, like there's going to be aspects that's, I don't know how they're going to break up the responsibilities there, but I think with as much movement as they're asking these guys to do, maybe there's a situation where like he kind of helps with anything first level, like it may be like he helps with edge guys or like he might do like the weak side or the boundary side stuff, or he might work on different aspects of like scheme or some sort of break. Like there's going to be some sort of specific role that he has within his role that kind of defines what he does outside of obviously recruiting is going to be his mainstay. So I'm excited about this hire. I want to see how I can't wait to see how it pans out. I think it's going to pan out really well. The way Clark Lea messes with this front seven, they need all the help they can get down there. So it's again, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a fun little deal. So yeah, so I'm pumped about that. It just seems like Clark Lea right now is is pushing all the right buttons. I think the last few buttons he needs to press now is finding a few more offensive linemen to add to the roster if he's got the space. So I'm excited about that, and here we go. So when we come back, some recruiting updates, and we're going to close out the show. Stay tuned. All right. This episode is also brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever had a frustrating ticket buying experience? Well, you probably weren't using Gametime. So the thing is, you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed. All right. So what are some things you like to do? Well, like for me, comedy shows are a big thing for me. So what I can do is I can get on Gametime and I can find last minute tickets. They have flash deals, zone deals, all kind of stuff I'll get to in a second. They have easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. And they give you views from all the seats in the venue and the lowest price guarantee with event cancellation protection and job loss protection, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, are you somebody that wants to see the view of the seat before you buy? They have that. Are you somebody that wants they just want to know, okay, I don't want to be tricked with any hidden fees or anything? Well, all-in pricing does show you your total up front, so you're getting a great deal before you check out. It's very easy to use. So you can get it up to the start of the event. You can find flash deals, sponsor deals on tickets for any event in the world of sports, comedy, theater. Zone deals. This is my favorite. Like, let's say like you don't want to get into the minutia of picking a seat. Well, you just say, hey, I want section V. And well, what they're going to do is they're going to get into section V and they're going to put it up there. And they're going to say, okay, section V, we'll find you the seats. Let's go. All right. They have a price guarantee. If you find a ticket at a better price, they'll credit you 110% of the difference from what you found. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest priced, guaranteed. All right, welcome back. It's the last and final segment. We have a few minutes left before we have to get out of here. We broke down Diego Pavia a little bit, what he brings to the table. Clark Lea adding to the recruiting staff, adding to the staff in general, on-field roles, off-field roles. He's making it happen. While those guys that are coming in are also making it happen. Got a few recruiting updates here. So, Andre Lovett is the latest offer from he's from Blue Island, Illinois, Eisenhower High School. Coach Rice is already going. He's already hitting the pavement. He's already crushing it in recruiting. So I'm a big fan of that, and he's going to hit that Chicago area hard. So you're going to see a lot of new offers from there. It's going to be good. Andre Lovett, linebacker, coming in. Derry Norris is another offer that comes in from Florida. So that's going to be Derry Norris. He's coming from Port Orange, Florida, Spruce Creek. He's an edge guy. I think with Clark Lea taking over the defense, you're going to see an emphasis on bringing in the best edge guys we can find. A 2027 edge rusher. You're getting. I'm really excited about this offensive lineman here, Rowan Byrne. He's getting after. He's from Iona Prep School. He is a guard, 6'6", 295. Really good feet there. I love him. Isaiah Gibson, one of the latest offers. He's from Warner Robins, Georgia. I think they were state champions this year. I'll have to. I have some friends down there in South Georgia. He's another he's another edge guy. Stop me if you've heard this one before. He's 6'5", 240, just lightning off the edge. Jonesboro High School, my neck of the woods. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. In Jonesboro High School, they were in our region. I grew up right around the corner from there. They have Jontavius Wyman. He's a rising junior. He's an athlete, DB, receiver, 6 foot, 175 pounds. So you'll kind of see kind of what how that shakes out. I think he's coming as a DB, big 6 foot corner. So I'm excited about that one. Jamar Owens, also DB, 6 foot, 175, coming from Jonesboro. Got a bunch from Jonesboro. They offered a whole bunch. Jermia Collier, linebacker, defensive end, another edge guy. Probably more of an inside backer at 6'2", but he's a little undersized. Cortez Redding, another DB. Jonesboro's like freaking DBHS, man. That's they're going to feed Vanderbilt with a bunch of defensive backs here. So looking for a few of these guys to commit. We got 2 commits already for 25. So looking for a few of these guys to commit from there. You got Cade Knighton is one I'm excited about. Shakai Mills Knight, another running back. He's from Baylor. He's teammates with so he's going to be excited. He, obviously he likes the school, likes the academics, all that good stuff. He's 6'2", 210-pound running back, just explosive, man. Just jumps off the page at you. He's a rising senior, man. He's a home run hitter. So a guy that will make Tim Beck's offense absolutely go. Jamal Richardson, he's he's coming in. Xavier Griffin is somebody that I'm excited about. He's an edge guy. Xavier Griffin, 6'4", 205, from Gainesville. You have Tony Kinsler. So it looks like we're putting an emphasis on running backs and edge rushers. Big defensive tackle, Jarevius Hall from Columbia Central, a little bit undersized, but again, he's a rising senior, so he's got time to grow. Lots of good options. East Robertson right up the road, 6'3", 220, edge guy. Taylor Groves, safety from East Robertson, up in Cross Plains, Tennessee. It's again, recruiting is picking up, man, and I think it has to be a lot of a lot of a lot of props to this new staff. I think you've got a lot of good recruiters on this staff. I think you got some guys that have a plan and know what they want to do. Barton Simmons doing a tremendous job as kind of that, I guess, chief of staff, general manager role, whatever it is. Kind of organizing a lot of stuff. The recruiting operations team is tremendous. Just need to get these guys on campus now, kind of see the progress of the construction. And I think this will be really, really good. Before I go, though, shout out to the women's team. They found a way to win against Auburn. There might be some underlying issues, but despite all of that, they found a way to get back on the winning track against Auburn. So big time congrats to them as well. So lots of optimism surrounding this program. Go back and watch that episode. There's a lot of things happening, and you're seeing recruiting picking up for 2025. Lots of offers being doled out, lots of talented, really talented guys that you wouldn't see on Vandy's radar before. I think you finally just have some competent coaches in here, honestly, that kind of understand what they want. They have a plan, and it's good to see Clark Lee more and more involved. So, but we'll see. But that's going to do it for us right here. That's going to do it for the Locked On Vandy podcast for the week. So we hope you dig out of the snow and into some sunshine next week, or some warmer temperatures at least. And we'll see you back here next week. This is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. And until next week, until then, we'll see you back better than ever. Anchor down.